Hey everyone, it's Kay. Welcome to my complete guide for Reign Solaris, Durandal's new battlesuit. Durandal is a physical imaginary type S rank set to release in version 8.0. She is under the Astral specialization Law of Ascension and uses the Javelin. In this video, I will be going through her kit, suitable team compositions, rotations, equipment, and more. Starting off, let's take a look at her mechanics. Durandal is the first unit, protected by the new Astral specialization Law of Ascension. This Astral ring relies on enhanced QTEs, allowing the full party to contribute to overall damage, compared to Wheel of Destiny, focusing on one unit taking most of the field time, or World Star where the support simply trigger resonance attacks from the main DPS. When Durandal enters Stellar Outburst, the game will slow down, and you can pick between selecting her and eligible team members. Picking Durandal lets her cast her Star Shift attack, dealing a huge amount of physical damage and temporarily enhancing her. Only Valkyries that have the Heavenly Shift tag are eligible for selection during Durandal's Stellar Outburst. Currently, the Valkyries that have this tag are Reign Solaris, Lone Planetfarer, Jovial Deception Shadow Dimmer, and Thousand Face Maestro Cameo. Each unit has their own Stellar Shift attack, which is cast once they first enter the field after Stellar Outburst has been triggered. If a team member has yet to cast this attack, they will have a blue halo surrounding their switch icon. Next, Durandal has two forms she can be in, Rampager form for ground combat and Skyrider form for aerial combat. Both her basic and charged attacks differ between the two forms. By default, she is in Rampager form, and she can switch to Skyrider form by using her weapon active or entering Stellar Outburst. In both forms, she can gain sunlight through basic attacks and her QTE, which is shown in the bar above her HP. Durandal's charge attack has 3 charge stages depending on how long the attack button is being held for. When Durandal has maxed out the sunlight meter, it can be consumed to significantly speed up the time taken for a charge attack. In Skyrider form, Durandal gains 3 stacks of Skylight Brilliance. Every third stage charge attack decreases her Skylight Brilliance count by 1, and she exits Skyrider form prematurely if all stacks are consumed. Additionally, after casting her third stage charge attack, she can perform a follow-up attack called Charge Attack EX, dealing physical damage. After exiting Skyrider form, her weapon active will call on cooldown for 60 seconds, and can only be reduced by using charge attacks. Certain attacks performed by Durandal will have the damage transferred from the Nihilus shell to the Nihilus seed of imaginary type enemies at a certain rate. Her ultimate transfers 200% of the damage, and after performing QTE and Stellar Shift, her next 3 level 3 charge attacks or Charge Attack EX will transfer 35% of the damage. For her support capabilities, Durandal has 3 tags relating to the Astral Ring. The first is Heavenly Shift, which I've mentioned before. This will allow her to support other Law of Ascension Valkyries that will be released in future versions with her ability to perform Stellar Shift. The second is Harmonized Shadow Star, which lets her support Wheel of Destiny Valkyries by triggering her Shadow Star attack and granting them Rondo in the Shadows. The last tag is currently unknown, and is connected to a lock skill related to an Astral Ring specialization set to be released in the future. Durandal also has many physical related buffs as well as shield break capabilities, allowing her to replace Terminal Aid as a support in Part 1 teams. Moving on to Durandal's gear, let's first take a look at her signature weapon, Valor's Effulgence, New Voyage. It has strong personal buffs and some team-wide buffs, as well as an enhancement to her Stellar Shift attack. It also provides her with more flexibility in rotations due to the huge 30-second reduction in her weapon active cooldown upon using a level 3 charge attack. While it's not as significant as something like Time Stop, it's still very useful to have, so I really recommend pulling for it if you plan on getting her. Like all Part 2 weapons, Valor's Effulgence comes with her Synergy skill. It has a decent independent multiplier that buffs the Valkyrie on the field, making it useful in both DPS and support scenarios. It also has a secondary effect that allows Durandal's Star Strafe attack to transfer a portion of its damage to the Nihilus seed against imaginary opponents. This is the damage difference between all 3 synergy levels of the weapon, as well as some potential alternative options for Durandal. While the damage gap may not seem as significant as some other Valkyries and their equipment, this comparison doesn't account for the flexibility provided through her signature weapon's weapon active cooldown reduction, which is made use of in a lot of her rotations. Moreover, since this damage test was done against a typeless enemy, damage transfer from this synergy skill was not taken into account, so against imaginary type enemies, the gap will widen even more. While additional synergy ranks are necessary, like I said, it's still recommended to pull for her own weapon. Stigmata-wise, there aren't really many options to consider other than her signature set. It has a ton of buffs for her role as a DPS and as a support, and the impair effect on the 3-piece bonus is a must since she's a physical damage dealer. Fortunately, like all Part 2 Stigmata, it should be relatively easy to acquire the whole set due to it being farmable. As a Law of Ascension Valkyrie, Durandal relies on Heavenly Shift teammates to support her. Against most of her bosses, running Thousand Face Maestro Cameo and Jovial Deception Shadow Dimmer is the most optimal, though using Lone Planetfarer is a fine alternative that does perform better on a minority of bosses. Since the Law of Ascension specialization relies a lot on other units dealing damage as well, not having two supports with Heavenly Shift in Durandal's team significantly weakens overall damage output and makes rotations feel more clunky. While this restriction will be less prominent as newer Valkyries in the attack are released, it means players without the necessary supports will have to struggle with using her as a DPS for at least a few patches. Like I mentioned earlier, since Durandal also has the capability to support Part 1 physical Valkyries, pairing her with her Show of Rebirth will benefit any Part 1 physical team. With all that out of the way, let's talk about how to play Durandal. I'll be going through possible rotations with teams I showed earlier, explaining how it works before following up with a video example. Durandal's rotations often make use of the effects of the Law of Ascension specialization to continuously trigger QTs to cast a charge attack faster. Her gameplay is rather open-ended and can vary depending on when Stellar Outburst is triggered. It's important to note that this, as well as any rotation examples for Law of Ascension Valkyries, are simply suggestions and can vary differently depending on the enemy you're fighting or the abyss tier you're in.
星落天元。独角兽消息，你该谢幕了。走你！鸿运当头，所向披靡，气势如虹，长刃击空。我也来掺和中场作戏，走。你就是那个幸运儿呀！奋战到底，不破不立，歪打正着，趁着兴头整个大活儿，嘿嘿，妙哉！你要中大运了！该飞以身为据，穿石破云，奋战到底！呀！独角兽猜猜倒下的会是谁呢？小心头上！全力以赴，盛世在手！天地日行，持志永恒，百战百胜，以身为据，穿石破云。红谢谢照你，不怕。姐姐小心，就差您了。游鱼入梦，坏消息，你该谢幕了。来，表演个红天，中场作戏，走马看。你就是那个幸运儿呀！到我了，别挡道！轻而易举，气势如虹，长刃击空。
If it's optimal to enter the Stellar Outburst as early as possible for whatever reason, the sequence of attacks is recommended when first entering the field. It triggers Stellar Drain to gain Astral Ring intensity as fast as possible to meet Durandal's high intensity cost. If you aren't able to meet the intensity requirement, casting Durandal's weapon active to enter Skyrider mode and casting her charge attack again should help.
还是这便是独行星间之人，障碍消除，星坠于此，愿你安眠，一切尽在掌中。全知的羽翼将撕裂天阙。我也来掺和坏消息，你该谢幕了。走你！笔者千面，有你就是那个幸运儿呀！所向披靡，星落天元，并肩作战。到我了，大家，别挡道！月光破晓，直贯云霄。小心头上！猜猜倒下的会是谁呢？一切尽在掌中，和星星一同，没入被遗忘的世界吧。
Similar to the Sparkle Song Share rotation, this relies on the continuous triggering of QTs to do damage while waiting for Astral intensity to recharge. If you happen to find yourself a bit short on intensity at the end of the rotation, try doing a few basic attacks or another combo attack.
全知的羽翼将撕裂天阙，所向披靡，月光破晓，直贯云霄。乘风而上，独角兽消息，你该谢幕了。来，表演个轰天震地，笔者千面，游戏人，你就是那个幸运儿呀！迟至永恒，百战百胜，该非迟至永恒。以身为据，穿石破云，还是独行者，火力全开，先追于此，愿你安眠。一切尽在掌中，和星星一同，没入被遗忘的世界吧。全力以赴，星落天元。我也来掺和一猜猜，倒下的会是谁呢？所向披靡，荣光不灭。天地日行。并肩作战。
Gyarados' role here is similar to her predecessor Terminal 8. She applies buffs with her charged attack and ult, then leaves the field. The standard Part 1 rotation with her of rebirth should remain unchanged.
来捉迷藏吧！红云的风流，跃动呼吸，所向披靡。气势如虹，长刃击空，请与我一同回归海的怀抱。有冷静一下吧，英明不息，即此亡体，权术观念，势已空幻。这会神奇之爱，似梦初觉。云烟了散，荣光不灭，月光破晓，直贯云霄。魂灵的分流，跃动呼吸，此众难成，这必有世间此为，于此梦中了悟一切。轮回始至，无告无终。
While Durandal definitely performs well against imaginary content, I don't think she will see use as a DPS outside of it. Her support performance is relatively unknown other than for Wheel of Destiny, which isn't exactly game-breaking. Moreover, the Chinese New Year event is the patch right after, and the community is expecting a lot of content, including a lot to pull for. At the time of making this video, a new S-Rank Kiana and Teresa Astral have already been revealed for version 8.1, and the spending event is also highly probable. Pulling for Durandal could cost tens of thousands of crystals and leave you broke going into the next patch. You should also be looking at the state of your account and whether you have the ability to actually use her. If you don't have at least 2 of the 3 Valkyries capable of supporting her right now, it might not be worth pulling her since you wouldn't be able to use her very well for at least an entire patch, if not longer, depending on when the next Valkyrie with the Heavenly Shift tag is released. I've always been an advocate for pulling who you want, and it's not like Durandal is terrible. I just find a niche, and free-to-play players might want a Valkyrie that has more use cases in game modes like Abyss or Memorial Arena. If that's not for you, that's totally fine. She may be niche, but she's great against her own bosses, leaving a huge gap between her and the second best option. That's it for my Durandal guide. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll try my best to answer them. Thanks for watching.